Namaste and a warm welcome. You're tuned in to the UPSC News Analysis for the 29th of April, 2025.
Hello, everyone.
Today, we're embarking on a pretty thorough exploration of the key current affairs. This is really crafted especially for all of you preparing for the UPSC exams.
That's right.
Our mission isn't just to, give you the headlines, but to really dissect them, connect the dots to the fundamental concepts, and, importantly, illuminate the issues that hold significance for your mains papers.
Yeah, think of it as a strategy session.
Exactly. Think of this as your personalized strategy session for staying ahead.
Indeed. And in this deep dive, we've got a fascinating array of topics lined up. Each gives a unique view on the socio-political and economic landscape, both of our nation and the world. We'll be looking at everything from the Padma Awards, the discourse around the Deputy Speaker post in the Lok Sabha, to more poignant moments like the passing of a cinematic legend, and key economic indicators, too.
And security, governance.
Yes, precisely. Matters of national security, governance, international relations, and vital social issues like the water crisis. It's diverse, but it's all interconnected.
Absolutely. And it's that interconnectedness that's so crucial, isn't it? Seeing how these, seemingly disparate events actually relate to each other, that gives you the holistic understanding that's so valuable for the UPSC.
Couldn't agree more.
So let's not delay. Our first deep dive takes us into the realm of national recognition, the Padma Awards. These are, as many of you will know, India's second highest civilian honors, just below the Bharat Ratna.
That's right. The Padma Awards, they're conferred annually and given in 3 categories. First, there's the Padma Vibhushan, that's for exceptional and distinguished service.
Okay.
Then you have the Padma Bhushan for distinguished service of a, let's say, high order. And finally, the Padma Shri, which acknowledges distinguished service in, any field.
And the process, it's quite something, isn't it? From nominations that can come from various sources, state governments, union ministries, even individuals themselves.
Yes, self-nomination is possible too.
Right. To the careful consideration by the Padma Awards Committee, and ultimately the approval and conferment by the Rashtrapati, our president.
And this year, on April 28th, 2025, at that ceremony in Rashtrapati Bhavan, President Draupadi Murmu bestowed these honors upon 71 remarkable personalities.
71.
And what's fascinating here is just the breadth of fields recognized. We're talking arts, literature, education, sports, medicine, public affairs, social work, science, engineering, civil services, really. The whole spectrum of human endeavor.
It truly is.
And this year's list certainly reflects that diversity. For instance, the Padma Vibhushan was awarded posthumously to M.T. Vasudevan Nair for his immense contributions to literature.
A giant.
And to Osamu Suzuki for his impact on industry. It makes you think about the kind of impact these individuals must have had.
Absolutely. And a Padma Bhushan list is equally noteworthy. You've got names like Shekhar Kapoor, the filmmaker, Nandamuri Balakrishna from cinema, the late Pankaj Udhas, whose music, touched so many.
Indeed.
And P.R. Srijesh, the hockey legend. It just underscores the multifaceted talent in our nation.
It really does. And it's important to remember the Padma Shri also recognizes vital contributions, often at the grassroots level.
Like the example you mentioned?
Yes, Maruti Bhujangraj Tampali, a Padma Shri recipient. His work in wildlife conservation is just so crucial. His dedication to preserving forests, educating rural communities, it's truly commendable.
It highlights those unsung heroes, doesn't it?
Precisely. It prompts us to think about those among us whose work really deserves national recognition.
Okay, now, for all of you gearing up for prelims, let's try and nail down some key facts here. The Padma Awards, importantly, don't have constitutional status.
That's a key point.
They were introduced back in 1954, presented by the president, announced every year on Republic Day. Posthumous awards have been allowed since 1955.
Right.
The ministry overseeing this, that's the Ministry of Home Affairs. And that Padma Awards Committee plays the crucial role of recommending names.
And remember, the award itself comprises a senate, a certificate, and a medal. No cash prize involved.
No cash prize, good point. And as we touched on, the fields covered are really extensive.
Now, connecting this to the bigger picture for your mains prep. You see, the Padma Awards serve as this vital mechanism for the government to acknowledge, to celebrate contributions that might otherwise just go unnoticed nationally. They recognize not just established figures, but also those working right there at the grassroots, often with limited resources, but, immense dedication. It's like the nation saying, we see you, your work matters.
But it's not without its complexities, is it? Over the years, there have been instances where allegations of favoritism or perhaps political lobbying have surfaced.
That's true.
And there's also the challenge of just ensuring the nomination process is widely understood, that it reaches all corners of the country so deserving individuals aren't overlooked.
This raises an important question, then, about the socio-political implications. On one hand, the Padma Awards can, undoubtedly, strengthen national integration, celebrating achievements across diverse fields, diverse regions.
Definitely.
And they can be a powerful tool for empowering local community workers, too, particularly in areas like agriculture, social service, tribal upliftment.
So thinking of the stakeholders here, obviously the government, civil society organizations, the artists, scientists, educators, and those grassroots innovators making a real difference.
Absolutely. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's quote, "Padma Awards are a celebration of meritocracy in real India," really tries to capture that sentiment.
It does.
And looking at the way forward, well, there are several avenues to consider. We need to expand the outreach of the nomination process, right? Make sure people in rural areas, grassroots workers know how to nominate or be nominated.
Transparency, too.
Yes, greater transparency in the selection criteria, the rationale behind the awards that could enhance public trust. Maybe even a periodic review of the impact the awardees have.
That makes sense.
And finally, proactively seeking out and highlighting achievements from rural innovators, farmers, environmental protectors. That's crucial. Maybe even involve local communities more directly in nominating. Just a thought.
Interesting. So for your UPSC journey, remember this topic. Prelims under polity awards and honors. For mains, it's GS Paper 2 governance, thinking about recognition of service and excellence, and GS Paper 1 society, promoting inclusiveness, and maybe connections for optionals like agriculture or Indian culture.
Good summary.
Okay, let's shift gears now. We're delving into a matter concerning the very functioning of our parliament, the vacant office of the Deputy Speaker of the Lok Sabha.
Ah, yes, this is a significant constitutional post, established under Article 93 of the Constitution. As you know, the Deputy Speaker is elected by the Lok Sabha members themselves, typically after the Speaker's election.
And their main role.
Their primary role is to preside over the House when the Speaker is absent. Think of them as, well, the Speaker's right hand, ensuring parliamentary proceedings run smoothly.
And here's where it gets really interesting. As of our report, April 29th, 2025, the post of Deputy Speaker in the 17th Lok Sabha, it's still vacant.
Still vacant.
What's striking is that this marks the longest period in India's parliamentary history that this position has been unfilled.
Quite remarkable, actually.
And with the Lok Sabha's 5-year term drawing to a close, the fact that this post hasn't been filled has drawn, well, considerable criticism, particularly from opposition parties who argue it violates constitutional convention.
Right, the convention aspect is key here. From a prelims perspective, vital to remember Article 93, it mandates election of both Speaker and Deputy Speaker as soon as may be.
As soon as may be.
Yeah.
That phrasing is important.
It is. The Deputy Speaker is elected by the Lok Sabha itself. Importantly, doesn't resign when the Lok Sabha dissolves, continues until the first meeting of the new House.
Right.
And traditionally, there's that convention of electing the Deputy Speaker from an opposition party, though the Constitution's as soon as may be doesn't set a fixed time limit.
And removal.
Removal requires a resolution passed by an effective majority of the total membership then, excluding vacancies. So if it's 543 seats, 10 vacant, majority of 533 needed.
Got it. So what does this all mean for our understanding of governance? Historically, electing a deputy speaker within a few months of a new Lok Sabha, that's been the norm, right?
Yes, very much the norm. And the position is crucial. It helps maintain neutrality, stability, and Parliament's functioning, ensures proceedings continue even if the speaker is unavailable, prevents log jams.
So the potential impact of this vacancy, it's significant.
It could be. A prolonged absence can potentially weaken legislative efficiency, especially if the Speaker's way. It might also create an impression of, shall we say, executive dominance over the legislature.
Undermining the spirit of the Constitution, perhaps?
Potentially undermining the spirit, yes, even if not strictly violating the letter of the law. And it can disrupt that participation, that trust building that should ideally exist between the ruling party and the opposition. It's about maintaining that delicate balance.
So who are the key stakeholders in this? Parliament as an institution, obviously, the opposition parties, who've been quite vocal, and ultimately the general public, who have a vested interest in effective democratic institutions.
Indeed. And it's worth noting, there was a Supreme Court observation back in 2021. The court stated the deputy speaker should be elected within a reasonable time.
highlighting the judiciary's expectation there.
Exactly.
Looking ahead then, what are some possible ways forward? One suggestion has been codifying a specific time limit, maybe in the rules of Parliament.
That's one idea. Perhaps setting a limit, say 3 months after the Lok Sabha forms. Also, respecting that long-standing convention of giving the post to the opposition could foster bipartisan trust.
And judicial review.
There's potential for constitutional courts to intervene if an unreasonable delay persists. Ultimately, the aim should be to reinforce the legislature's independence, avoid any perception of excessive executive control over parliamentary offices.
Makes sense. For UPSC prep, prelims under Polity Constitutional Posts, Article 93, mains, GS Paper 2, Polity and Governance, looking at separation of powers, parliamentary functioning.
Precisely. Now let's pivot to a different kind of loss. The passing of a remarkable figure in Indian cinema, Shaji N. Karun.
Ah, yes. Shaji N. Karun, an acclaimed Indian filmmaker and cinematographer, known for his, well, deeply philosophical and visually stunning films, primarily from Kerala. It was very sad news, his passing on April 28, 2025, at 73.
Truly a loss. His contributions are significant. A master of his craft known for that unique storytelling approach.
Absolutely. His debut film, Piravi, back in 1988, that garnered international recognition, numerous national awards.
And based on a true story, wasn't it?
Yes, based on the real-life disappearance of a student during the emergency. Very poignant. And his other films like Swam, Vanaprastham, Nishad, showcased at prestigious festivals like Cannes.
He was highly regarded for seamlessly blending breathtaking visual aesthetics with deeply moving narratives, often rooted in Indian socio-political realities. His films weren't just entertainment, they were explorations.
Deep explorations of the human condition. For prelims, important to remember key films: Piravi, Swam, Vanaprastham, their recognition national awards, Cannes. Also, his Padma Shri in 2011.
And understanding the significance of Cannes and the National Film Awards themselves as premier platforms for cinematic excellence, they act as barometers, really.
Good point. Now, analyzing his contributions for mains, we see Shaji N. Karun was a significant figure in India's parallel cinema movement, right? Championing realism, tackling important social issues.
Yes, very much so. A pioneer in cinematography-led storytelling, especially in Malayalam cinema. He used the camera not just to capture visuals, but to tell the story itself. A truly unique approach.
But the landscape for Indian art cinema, it isn't without its challenges, is it? Limited funding, state support.
Absolutely. Filmmakers often face those hurdles, and they have to contend with the dominance of commercial, mainstream entertainment. Plus, securing global distribution for meaningful Indian films, despite critical acclaim, remains a significant hurdle.
It's a constant struggle to get these important stories seen more widely.
Indeed. Shaji N. Karun's films often delved into profound themes: personal loss, societal oppression, existential struggles. His work gave voice to marginalized communities, shed light on critical events like the emergency.
A true storyteller using the visual medium. Piravi, as you mentioned, wasn't just about a missing person. It was a powerful commentary.
Exactly. The stakeholders here are broad. Before the Indian cinema industry, cultural preservationists, policymakers involved in arts funding, that, quote, attributed to the Khan jury about Swam. In the world of silence, Shaji's camera found a voice for the voiceless, beautifully captures his impact.
That's powerful. So looking ahead, honoring his legacy, supporting the kind of cinema he championed, what steps can be taken?
Well, strengthening financial support, increasing international exposure for parallel cinema is crucial. Efforts to preserve our cinematic heritage, digitizing, archiving works like his, are vital.
Including his films in film institutes.
Yes, that could inspire the next generation. And actively promoting regional art globally through international forums helps these stories reach wider audiences.
Yeah.
Maybe even collaborations with international film archives.
Lots of possibilities. For UPSC prep, prelims, Indian culture, art, and cinema, mains, GS Paper 1, Indian culture, cinema as cultural expression, GS Paper 2, governance, promoting cultural diplomacy. Sociology optional might find links too.
Good. Let's move on now to a key indicator of our economic health. The Index of Industrial Production, or IIP.
Right, the IIP. As many of you know, it's a composite indicator measuring growth in key industrial sectors. Mining, manufacturing, electricity. It gives us a snapshot of industrial activity.
And it's compiled and published by the National Statistical Office, NSO, under the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, MOSBI. Think of it like a monthly health check for our industrial sector.
And the latest news, as of April 29th, 2025. The IIP registered a 3% growth in March 2025.
Yeah, which seems to indicate a, well, moderate uptrend, especially considering ongoing economic challenges, inflation, global slowdown concerns.
And the key sectors.
Importantly, manufacturing, electricity, and mining all showed positive trends during this period. This data is critical, providing valuable insights for policymakers, including the RBI, as they formulate strategies.
For example, strong manufacturing growth might suggest certain policies are working.
Exactly. Or it might influence decisions on interest rates, for instance.
Okay, prelims focus. IIP is published monthly by NSO under MOSPI, key sectors, mining, manufacturing, electricity. Remember, the approximate weightages manufacturing is the big one, around 77.6%.
Mining around 14.2%, electricity about 8%.
Right. Current base year is 2011-12, that's the reference point, and it tracks different categories of goods: primary, capital, intermediate, infrastructure, consumer durables, non-durables.
And its significance lies in its use for estimating the industrial sector's contribution to the overall GDP.
Got it. Now, delving into the Maine's perspective. The background here is that industrial growth trends have been somewhat uneven recently. Global uncertainties, supply chain issues, policy shifts,
Yes, the pandemic had a huge impact, for instance, and recovery has been gradual.
and persistent challenges include, well, a manufacturing sector perhaps not growing as robustly as services, and volatility in mining and electricity.
Precisely. Those can be influenced by things like climate, policy, but also global factors, oil prices, trade dynamics.
So the key stakeholders: government using data for policy, industries and MSMEs for planning, investors and analysts gauging market trends.
Right, strong IIP can boost investor confidence. A slowdown might trigger caution.
And from a socioeconomic standpoint, positive IIP suggests potential for job creation. And it's fundamental to India's ambition of becoming a $5 trillion economy.
Absolutely. The economic survey often emphasizes manufacturing's importance. Boosting IIP is essential for inclusive growth.
Looking at the way forward then, strengthening infrastructure seems key: logistics, energy, industrial corridors.
Paramount. Plus, continuing reforms for ease of doing business to attract investment, both domestic and foreign. Targeted support for MSMEs, access to credit, tech, markets is vital.
And sustainability.
Yes, promoting green manufacturing practices is essential, encouraging industries to adopt environmentally friendly tech and processes.
Okay. UPSC relevance. Prelims, Indian economy, economic indicators, industrial development. Mains, GS Paper 3, Indian economy, sections on growth, development, industrial sector analysis.
Good. Now let's turn our attention to a matter of national security. The Jammu and Kashmir House unanimously condemning a recent terrorist strike.
Ah, yes. The Jammu and Kashmir Legislative Assembly functioning now under the Constitution post the 2019 Reorganization Act. It serves as the legislative body for the Union Territory.
And the unanimous passage of this resolution condemning a recent terror attack, that's a significant development. It shows a united front against violence.
Indeed. The resolution expresses solidarity with victims, reaffirms commitment to fighting terrorism. Leaders across the political spectrum emphasize national unity, stronger counterterrorism measures.
The report mentions civilian casualties, though specific details weren't provided.
Right. From a prelims perspective, important to understand the current legislative structure in J&K post-Article 370 abrogation, just the Legislative Assembly now, no bicameral legislature.
And familiarity with the anti-terror framework is crucial. Acts like UAPA, the role of the NIA as the primary counter-terror probe agency.
Also, be aware of CLPFs like CRPF operating there, and the applicability of AFSPA in certain disturbed areas.
Good points. Analyzing this remains, the backdrop of J&K's long-standing sensitivity to cross-border terrorism is crucial context. In this environment, political condemnation carries significant weight for public morale, trust.
Sends a strong message that such acts won't be tolerated.
But the challenges are persistent, aren't they? Despite security measures, issues like terror recruitment, radicalization continue. Cross-border infiltration remains a major concern.
And the disruption to socioeconomic development is a constant factor.
Exactly. These are complex issues, deep-rooted causes. The stakeholders are numerous. Local civilians bearing the brunt, security forces, state central governments, even the international community observing India's approach.
That quote from Kofi Annan, "Terrorism anywhere is a threat to peace everywhere," underscores the global dimension.
It does. Looking at potential ways forward. Strengthening local intelligence gathering is essential. Integrating security with comprehensive development and education initiatives can address root causes.
Community policing, too.
Yes, fostering trust and cooperation through community policing is vital. And maintaining international pressure on those sponsoring terrorism remains a key diplomatic strategy.
Okay. UTSC relevance. Prelims, Indian polity, legislative procedures, security issues. Mains, GS Paper 2, polity, governance, federal issues. And GS Paper 3, internal security, terrorism countermeasures.
Right. Now, let's turn our attention to a recent Supreme Court decision regarding an enforcement directorate plea concerning Tamil Nadu Minister V. Senthil Balaji.
Okay, so the ED, the Enforcement Directorate, the central agency enforcing economic laws, combating financial crimes under acts like PMLA, the Prevention of Money Laundering Act.
Whose main aim is preventing laundering of money from illegal activities. The news is the SC declined the ED's plea to bar Senthil Balaji from holding office.
The ED argued that since he was arrested in a money laundering case, he shouldn't hold ministerial responsibilities. But the SC reasoned differently.
Yes, the SC said allocating or withdrawing portfolios is the chief minister's discretion, and pointed out there's no explicit constitutional prohibition preventing someone in custody from being a minister.
Though they acknowledged it raises questions of political morality.
Big questions, yes. From a prelims perspective, recall relevant articles. Article 164, CM Council of Ministers appointment. Article 191, MLA disqualification. Remember, grounds for disqualification under the Representation of People Act. 1951, conviction for certain offenses. Insolvency, unsound mind, office of profit.
Crucially, arrest or trial doesn't mean automatic disqualification.
Exactly. And the SEC can issue guidelines but can't override clear constitutional provisions unless there's a direct violation. Oh, and insolvency, that's a legal status declared by a court when someone can't repay debts, not just being short of cash.
Right. Key takeaways for Main's understanding. This situation arises from his arrest in a case related to his previous tenure as transport minister. Despite arrest, he continued as minister without portfolio. Highlights that interplay between legal process and political reality.
And the underlying issues it brings up are fascinating. Significant concerns about ethical governance, accountability, the lack of explicit disqualification for accused persons. It can be seen as allowing potential misuse of office.
Blurring lines between legality and morality.
Precisely. It blurs that crucial distinction, and that can erode public trust in the system.
Stakeholders involved. The judiciary upholding rule of law, the executive making appointments, citizens expecting ethical governance, opposition parties providing checks.
And the Supreme Court itself has often emphasized upholding constitutional morality and governance.
Looking ahead, potential steps. Maybe legislative action for clearer laws on ministers facing serious charges.
That's a possibility. Strengthening ethical governance requires more than just legality. It needs a commitment to moral propriety. Political parties also have a role demonstrating political will to deny tickets offices to those with questionable records.
And the judiciary
Must continue exercising prudence, emphasizing ethical standards without overstepping its constitutional mandate.
Okay. UPSC relevance. Prelims, polity legislator disqualifications, ED functioning, mains, GS Paper 2 governance, topics like ethics in public office, separation of powers, role of judiciary.
Good. Let's shift focus now internationally. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine and Russia's recent announcement of a 3-day truce.
Right, a truce. A temporary stop in fighting, often for humanitarian reasons, evacuation, aid, or maybe talks. The Russia-Ukraine conflict, since the Feb 2022 invasion, remains a major crisis. These truces can be fragile.
And the recent news is Russia declared a 3-day truce in specific war-affected zones. Stated objectives: civilian evacuation, aid distribution.
This comes amidst increasing international pressure, right? UN, neutral countries pushing for humanitarian corridors.
Yes. But Ukraine has responded with skepticism. Concerns Russia might use these truces for military regrouping, repositioning.
That's always a risk.
Yeah.
For prelims, good to know key international bodies involved.
Yep.
UN Security Council, Peace Security, ICRC, protecting civilians in conflict.
Also remember, related agreements like the Geneva Conventions of 1949 outlining protections for civilians. And it's worth noting there have been multiple short-lived ceasefires since 2022. Key contested regions: Donbass, Crimea, earlier areas like Mariupol.
Analyzing for mains, the background of the invasion and its huge consequences is crucial. Immense human suffering, casualties, refugees, but also major global economic disruptions.
Yes, the impact on global supply chains, especially food and energy, has been significant.
And the challenges with these truces, a significant lack of trust is often the core issue, isn't it?
Absolutely. Regarding adherence to terms, there's the risk of truces being militarized, used to regroup rather than for genuine aid. Ensuring safe, Unimpeded humanitarian access is a major concern. Verification is often weak.
Key stakeholders. Obviously, Russia and Ukraine governments, the UN and humanitarian agencies on the ground, the broader international community, NATO, EU, G20.
And the geopolitical implications are vast, affecting global food security. Ukraine's a major grain exporter, energy market volatility. Russia's a major supplier. Plus, it's contributing to global power shifts involving China, USA, European nations.
Looking at potential ways forward, greater mediation efforts seem needed, facilitated by neutral international actors.
Essential to promote a negotiated settlement. Strengthening monitoring and implementation of humanitarian corridors through robust international oversight is also crucial. Economic sanctions on Russia need careful calibration, maybe targeted relief for essential humanitarian goods.
And multilateral cooperation to address the global fallout.
Yes, particularly on food and energy security.
Okay, UPSC relevance. Prelims, International Relations Important Conflicts Organizations. Mains, GS Paper 2 IR, Impact of Conflicts on Global Stability, Humanitarian Diplomacy.
Right. Now let's turn our attention to a pressing social issue within India. The disproportionate burden faced by women in rural areas due to the ongoing water crisis.
This is critical. Highlights that intersection of environment and gender inequality. The report from Shahapur region and Maharashtra villages like Bakhni Gram Panchayat, Duparwadi, Chinyachiwadi illustrates acute water shortages, a stark reminder of daily struggles.
The report details that immense burden on women, often forced to travel long distances daily for water. In summer, this can take 4 to 5 hours.
4 to 5 hours daily.
Yes. And it's not unique to this region, reflects wider rural distress, exacerbated by climate change, inadequate infrastructure, governance challenges.
And the disproportionate impact on women's health, girls' education, economic participation, it's profound.
It really is. The physical strain of carrying heavy water loads causes health issues. Girls pulled out of school to help fetch water, hindering their future. And the time spent severely limits women's opportunities for income generation. It perpetuates disadvantage.
For prelims prep, recall key government initiatives. Jal Jeevan Mission, tap connections for rural households, Swajal Scheme, community-managed drinking water.
Also, data from NE Aayog's Composite Water Management Index highlighting the severity of India's water crisis, lack of safe water access. And remember, SDG 6, Sustainable Development Goal 6, on water and sanitation for all.
Analyzing for mains. The traditional gendered division of labor in rural India, where water collection falls mainly on women and girls, that's a crucial context.
And climate change impacts more frequent, severe droughts intensify this burden. It's a vicious cycle. Environmental stress exacerbates social inequalities.
The challenges are multifaceted. Loss of education for girls, health hazards for women, economic loss hindering poverty reduction, perpetuating deep social inequities.
Key stakeholders. Rural women girls directly affected. Panchayati Raj institutions, local governance, state water boards, NGOs working on rural empowerment and water security.
And the socio-political implications. Trapping women in poverty, potential for local unrest over water crises.
That UN Water Report quote from 2020. If water is life, then women are the lifelines of villages. Very apt. Looking ahead, several steps are crucial. Strengthening Jal Jeevan Mission implementation, focusing on marginalized villages.
Women-centric policies?
Yes. Formulating women-centric water policies, promoting water user associations with significant women's participation ensures their voices are heard. Encouraging rainwater harvesting, effective watershed management at community level enhances local water security.
And integrating education, skill development.
Yes, integrating that for girls and women with water security interventions can be transformative. Finally, a more integrated rural development approach combining water security with healthcare, sanitation, education is vital.
Okay, UPSC relevance, prelims, government schemes, SDGs, mains, GS Paper 1 society, women issues, rural distress, GS Paper 2 governance, service delivery, GS Paper 3 agriculture environment, water conservation, maybe agriculture optional too.
Right. Finally, let's delve into our last deep dive today, focusing back on the Padma Awards, but specifically looking at those recognized for contributions to agriculture and environmental conservation.
Ah, yes, a crucial aspect. Highlighting national recognition for those working at the grassroots for environmental sustainability, agricultural progress. The April 28th ceremony did honor several individuals in these vital sectors: farming innovation, rural livelihoods, environmental protection, tribal upliftment.
It underscores the importance of these sectors for the nation's well-being. One notable awardee was Maruthi Pujangrao Chitampally, who received the Padma Shri, a distinguished wildlife conservationist, nature writer from Maharashtra, renowned for work in forest habitat conservation, rural environment education.
And others recognized too.
Yes. The awards also recognize several other grassroots workers for contributions in organic farming, preserving traditional tribal farming practices, community forestry. These individuals often work tirelessly with little recognition.
For prelims, useful to remember relevant government schemes promoting sustainable agriculture. NMSA, National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture, PKVY, Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana for organic farming.
And reiterating key Padma facts, no monetary grant, self-nomination possible. Understanding the importance of recognizing contributions in agriculture environment for broader rural development is crucial.
Analyzing for mains. Recognizing individuals from these sectors highlights that shift towards acknowledging, empowering the grassroots. Agricultural innovations are vital, especially with climate change and the goal of doubling farmers' income. These awards can inspire others.
But a challenge is, often these rural contributors, despite significant local impact, lack national recognition. There's also a need for better mechanisms to document and share the innovative practices developed at the grassroots.
Creating platforms for knowledge sharing would be beneficial.
Definitely. Key stakeholders. Small marginal farmers, often at the forefront of sustainable practices, environmental activists, rural development organizations, supporting these efforts.
And the socio-political implications. Boosting morale in rural communities, strengthening participatory development models in agriculture and environment. Mahatma Gandhi's quote, "The farmers are the backbone. Recognizing them strengthens the nation," resonates here.
It does. Looking forward, several steps could help. Expanding award categories for specific streams like agriculture, environment, rural innovations could give more focused recognition. Systematically documenting best practices of awardees could help replicate successful models nationally.
Proactive nomination drives.
Yes, proactive grassroots nomination drives, especially in tribal areas, remote villages, eco-sensitive zones, could ensure wider representation. And finally, integrating the knowledge and experience of these awardees into designing rural development and climate resilience policies could significantly enhance effectiveness.
Makes a lot of sense. UPSC relevance for this focus. Prelims, awards honors, agriculture innovations. Mains, GS Paper 2 governance, grassroots leadership recognition. GS Paper 3 agriculture, sustainability, rural innovation, and environment conservation. Agriculture optional too.
Good wrap up on that.
And with that, we bring to a close this comprehensive deep dive into the UPSC news analysis for 29th of April, 2025. We've certainly covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From national honors, parliamentary procedures, the passing of a cinematic giant, crucial economic indicators, national security, IR, water scarcity challenges, and recognizing work in agriculture and environment.
We hope this in-depth analysis has given you a clearer understanding of these key current affairs and, crucially, their relevance for your UPSC preparation. Remember, staying informed, connecting these events to broader themes. That's vital for both prelims and mains.
Absolutely. Do subscribe for your daily dose of insightful updates. And please do drop a comment, share your thoughts, engage further with the material. Remember, the audio and a detailed transcript of this session are available for your revision.
Until next time, study well.